The value of girls. Welcome to Change the Conversation with the Hopefulist. My name is Wendy McClure, and it's time we had a conversation about living in a patriarchy and how that affects our lives. Together, we can make a difference and change the conversation. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today for Change the Conversation with the Hopefulist. I applaud you for being here, for being ready and willing to do the work, the digging in that will take you to your next level. There is a lot of women who do not want to face these issues. They want to pretend like they don't exist. But you are here, you are digging in, and you are trying to make a difference and trying to change the conversation. And that I applaud you for. I celebrate you and thank you for being here. I wanted to start out with the quote of the day, as usual. The best part of competition is that through it, we discover what we are capable of and how much more we can actually do than we ever believed possible. Now, I bring this up because I happened to be in a tournament over the weekend. If you listen to me for any time, you know that I am a big pickleballer. That's right. I love me some pickleball. And this is the second time that I have been in the big pickleball tournament that we have in this area. You know, it's a sanctioned tournament. It's, you know, by the rules. There's refs there. I mean, it's a big deal. And it is an amazing experience. It is an incredible experience. And this is why I always talk about finding your passion. You know, my passion for the last couple of years has been playing pickleball. And it's something that challenges me. It's something that satisfies a number of things that I enjoy. One, competition with other people and myself. I'm constantly striving to become better at it. I'm trying to improve my skills and to just be an all-around better pickleball player. I love the competition part when we are playing against another team. I don't take it that seriously until tournament time. And, you know, then it's like, I'm all in. You know, I'm like, you are my friend, but not until after the last ball drops. And, you know, that is one of the problems with having a tournament in your hometown is you often have to play a lot of people that you know. And to me personally, it's a little uncomfortable. I would rather play with people I don't know. I'm always very gracious to the team that I'm playing with, regardless of whether I know them or not. If somebody has an amazing shot, I tell them amazing shot. And I remember in the competition over the weekend, I said that to one of the players in the opposing team, and I could tell that it was the first time someone in the opposing team said that to her in this competition, because she was really surprised that I said it. And, you know, we're not enemies. We are competitors, and we, of course, each want to win, but it does not mean that you can't compliment the other team when they do something that is extraordinary. So, you know, that being said, I did not get a medal over the weekend, but that does not matter because it is such amazing, exhilarating, exciting feeling. And I was in two separate categories. One was women's doubles. And, you know, I did not have a good day on my women's doubles day. And I think there was a couple of reasons for that. One reason is my doubles partner and I did not practice together, like at all. I think we had one day when we played together. And, you know, if you don't practice together, I mean, you can only count on your own individual strengths. You don't know what you can do together. And that's why you're part of a team, so that you can draw on each other's strengths. So we didn't really have any of that because we didn't spend enough time together to figure that out. Also, we had what they call a first round bye, where all of the teams played except for two teams. And we had to wait until those games got finished before we even started our games. And it was almost 2 hours after the tournament had started. And I was just really not in my groove yet. Like when I went to play the other teams, they had already played 3 games. I had played none. They were warmed up, they were in their groove, and I was just flat cold. So there were a number of things, and I did not play well. I just didn't play well. And I just didn't have a good day. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I think I just felt like I did really poorly. And, I was like, why did I even enter this thing? But then the next day, I was with my mixed doubles partner. And that is my friend Mike. And we have been practicing together several times a week since at least June. We've played together for a number of years, just in like rec play, not in any kind of competitions or anything. But, we're friendly outside of pickleball as well. So, we would tend to team up when we had the chance. And then I asked him if he wanted to enter the tournament with me. And since June, we've been getting together several times a week. And we really know each other's strengths. We really know who is good at what. And we count on that. Like I know that Mike is going to be there when I'm not. I know that Mike has precision placement with putting the ball exactly where it needs to go so it's out of reach for the other team. I just stand there and look pretty. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I'm kidding. That is the old patriarchal conditioning that made me say that. But I'm pretty good at the net. Like I'm trying to dink the ball in the corner so that they have to run off the court in order to get the ball. And then I set Mike up to slam the ball down the middle so that we can win that point. So we each have our own strengths. I'm better at serving, so I always serve. The other reason that I always serve is that puts Mike in a position to have his forehand available, which is usually the stronger of, stronger than your backhand. So when the ball's coming, he has more of the court as the person with his forehand ready to go. So we did that very strategically where I would serve and then he would cover basically the first point if it was anywhere near him. Like he'll cover like 65% of the court and I'll cover the rest. So if the ball's coming anywhere from his side to almost halfway down my side, he's going to get that ball. So we played really well. We lost our first match. It was okay. It was very close, which meant we won 1 game and they won 2. They won the first game. We won the second game, went to a third game, and they beat us in the third game. We went to the consolation round, and that is when we won our next game. And we went to the third game, and I was convinced we had this game in the bag, but I choked. we had the game point on the line. It was my serve, and I messed up, and we ended up losing. And I really thought we had that game in the bag, but the experience of it all, the thrill of winning and the agony of defeat. It was everything that you always hear about, and it was so exciting, and I cannot wait for next year. So this got me to thinking about not only how we, as women of a certain age, need to find a passion that's going to bring that kind of excitement and exhilaration into our lives, but it reminds me of how maybe children get hooked on this kind of competition and victory as young little girls. And what I thought of specifically is girls that are enrolled in beauty pageants. We see this. What's the show? Tiaras and something in Tiaras. It was about, little girls being in beauty pageants. And this was very common not that long ago, and it still happens. But we're putting these little girls in these like ballroom gowns, and we're painting their face full of makeup. We're doing their hair up like crazy as if they were women. And what they do is set these girls up to believe that they are only valued on how they look. They're only valued on how they look. And if you think about it, toddlers and tiaras, I think that's what it was called. If you think about it, they have nothing like that for boys. They have nothing that has a competition that is based on boys or men's looks solely. The closest thing I could come up with was bodybuilder competitions. And even that's about how your body looks. It has nothing to do with how a man's face looks. Where with the beauty pageants, it is almost predominantly how your face looks, how your hair looks, how your body looks. But mostly I would have to say it has to be about the face because it's a beauty pageant. It's not a healthy pageant. It's not she has a decent body pageant. It's a beauty pageant. And when we think beauty, we think of how they look in their face. And we all know that, women can make themselves look extremely beautiful when they want to. If you've ever seen a woman that that is, pretty plain throughout their regular lives, they're, and they're cool with that, and everybody's cool with that. That's you see them on their wedding day. Yeah, that I have seen some people who truly make the meaning of beautiful bride come true. The most beautiful that I've ever seen on their wedding day. And so I know that everybody has it in them to make themselves look better, again, according to society standards. You put the makeup on, you do the hair a certain way, you highlight this, you downgrade that. It's a whole thing. We know that. And we know that from most of the videos that we watch on TikTok or whatever. It's watching women put on their makeup. They're doing this whole monologue while they put on makeup. And I have to agree, I find it fascinating as well. I'm like, how's she doing that? Look at the way she's doing her lids. Look at the way she's brushing everything in a circular. It's fascinating to us. Again, because that's what we were taught is the important thing for us as women is to look the best that we can. And we have been having this drilled into our head since the time that we were toddlers, hence the Toddlers and Tiaras show. So not only are we teaching young girls from the get-go that they're in competition with the girls that surround them for who is most beautiful, but, if they win, that makes them feel even more so that they have to keep doing it, that they have to keep doing what they are doing in order to continue to win and get that feeling of victory and exhilaration and excitement. And if you don't win, well, it's just devastating. It's just devastating because it is a direct result of how you look that you have failed on. I mean, it's just so harmful in every single way. And this is what sets little girls up to focus on, highlight, and push how they look in order to get attention and accolades. And again, we don't do this with boys. We teach boys to be brave and that they can do anything. Where women, little girls, are being taught, you look good, you treat a man well, and you will get the ultimate prize of being a wife, a mother, and a servant. It's just basically what you are when you are a wife and a mother. You are a servant to your husband. You are a servant to your kids. And women are waking up to this. And they're realizing it's not really the prize that they want. They're realizing it's not what they want to go after. But this is why we all think this. This is why the women of my generation, Gen X and above, thought that was the ultimate prize because that is what we were taught our entire lives. The generations behind us are starting to wake up to the fact that that may not be the end-all, be-all. And more power to them. I hope they keep it up. But I'm talking specifically to the women of my generation because think about for a second, if you weren't constantly conditioned to believe that the ultimate goal was marriage and children, if you were encouraged, like boys are, to do whatever it is you dreamed of, that you could be whatever you wanted to be, taking marriage and motherhood out of the equation, how different do you think your life could be? Where do you think you would be right now if somebody wasn't constantly shoving down your throat that the ultimate prize was marriage and children? Where do you think you could be right now? It's a hard question to answer. It's not obviously something you can come up with right now. But these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves to find ourselves, our true selves, the one that has been hiding inside of us our entire lives, the ones that we have pushed down deep inside because it didn't line up with what we were told was our purpose. We were told what our purpose was, to be a wife and mother. And men were told, boys were told, you can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And we give them accolades and we celebrate them for things that they do, skills that they have, not for how they look. So part of the problem with this and the reason that it continues in the way that it does is because society has convinced young women that older women are the enemy. They have been taught to discount us because, we're dried fruit. We're put out to pasture. Nobody cares what we have to say anymore. And this is all by design because as women age and beauty fades, because it does for all of us, with that comes the wisdom. The wisdom to know that we were always more than our looks, that we really had so many more choices than we were told. But women, younger women, are encouraged to see us as somebody who's just jealous of them now that we're not young and beautiful anymore. And they just completely discount what we say when we try to warn them. And they don't realize that we were right until they are in our shoes a decade or two later. And then they realize, oh, they were right. And they try to warn the girls coming up behind them. And the cycle continues. So I have a lot of hope that things are changing now because I know that millennials and Gen Z see things that we did not see as Gen Xers. And that gives me a lot of hope. And I really, really think that we need to start questioning things like beauty pageants. Even when we get out of the young girl era and we have the Miss America pageant and the Miss USA pageant. And of course, I don't think there's one over 30. And again, because women over 30, if you're not married by then, you should be ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's what I was brought up to believe. And that is what I believed as a woman who didn't get married until 41. And I let the misery of feeling like an outcast in society rule my life. But even more than that, what was even worse was when I did get married. When I finally did get married at 41. I didn't get what I thought was promised to me all of those years, all of those decades. I, for 4 decades, believed that the reason I wasn't truly happy was because I was not married. So then when I got married and I wasn't instantly happy, I didn't know why. And you can sit back and think and be like, well, it seems kind of obvious. You're not going to get married and have a magic switch take place. That's what I was taught to believe. That's what I was taught to believe. From fairy tales, from movies, from songs, from TV shows. That was the message that I got. That I wasn't going to be complete until I got married. And once I got married, then I would finally have the happiness that I had always desired. And when that didn't happen, I became the most miserable, unhappy, depressed person I had ever been in my entire life. I thought that I made a mistake by getting married. I thought that since I didn't get the happiness that I was promised, that I picked the wrong person. That it was still somehow my fault that I was unhappy. It was because that's the thing with women. It's always our fault. So when I didn't feel the happiness that I thought that I would, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong? And it wasn't until I started to delve down a little bit more, read some books. You all know my favorite book, You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, was the book that opened my eyes to what had really been going on my entire life. I was being a happiness delayer, and I've talked about this so many times. In essence, I had so much going for me, the marriage aside. I had a great job in radio. I met, I was on the radio every day. I had fans. I met celebrities. I was in a very exciting career. I was in a very male-dominated career, which had its own problems, but also was, a bit of a challenge that I conquered. So that was nice as well. I had a ton of friends. At some point, I loved where I lived. I had so much going for me, and I was happy at that time. But I still knew that there was more to come because I was not married. And I knew that once that happened, I was going to be the happiest I had ever been. And when the opposite happened, that's when I had to dig deep and delve into the real reasons why I was so unhappy. So I was promised something my entire life. Marriage will fulfill you. And when it did not fulfill me, I asked myself, what did I do wrong? Not, was the system wrong? No. I asked, what did I do wrong? And that's when I had to really ask myself those tough questions. And what I found was, nothing will fulfill you unless it's something that you truly desire. And I did truly desire to get married, but it wasn't necessarily the only thing that was going to make me happy. And that's what I always believed, is that I wasn't going to be truly the happiest I could ever be until I got married. And when that didn't happen, I felt betrayed. I felt depressed and lonely and miserable, and I thought that I was destined to a life of unhappiness and depression. And it wasn't until I worked on myself that I realized that the only way and the only person that can make you fulfilled is yourself. So stop listening to what society tells you that you need in order to be the best you. What you need to do is figure out what it is that you want that is going to make you the best you. And there are no rules. You do not have to be a mother. You do not have to be a wife. You do not have to go to a job and have a 9-to-5 life. You can start your own business. You can go into politics. You can do whatever you want. Or you can just have a hobby that brings life into you, like I do with pickleball. You can do whatever it is you want to do. You can start your own podcast and start just telling everybody your story. You can write. You can paint. You can do so many things that we were told as women, well, that's okay for a hobby. But once you get married and start having children, that's going to be your main job. No. We know now. We know that is not true. And we are not going to fall for it anymore. So when I say that I want you to truly break free of patriarchy so that you can discover that you have always been enough, exactly as you are. Not until you got married, not until you had kids. No, you are already enough. You have always been enough, exactly as you are. And the wisdom is that you rule your life. You are the one that gets to call the shots on what makes you happy. And if it's not marriage and children, then it's not marriage and children. If it's to be career-oriented, that's great. If it is to be a mother and a wife, that's great too. I just want you to know that wife and mother is not the ultimate goal. Not anymore. That's what society wants you to think. The society wants you to think that, one, because they need people, women, to have babies so that we keep populating the earth, so there's little worker bees for the corporations to take advantage of, and so that they can keep making money. So no, society is never going to be on board with that idea, but now we know why. It's not because they're worried about our happiness, it's because they're worried about their production. So I know this is all a lot to take in, but if you start to break these things down one by one, and you start to really dig a little here and there, the real you will emerge, and you can embrace that real you, that one that's been hiding inside since you were a little girl, since you were told, you can't say that here, since you were told, sit down, cross your legs, and fold your hands in your lap. That girl. I have a neighbor who has grandchildren, and I have known the little girl who's about 6 since she was born. And she is just the most outgoing, talkative, happy, exuberant little girl I have seen in forever. She is she just talks nonstop. And it's funny, she has a little sister now that's about 3 who is exactly like her. But the 6-year-old now suddenly becoming very shy. Doesn't talk to me unless I talk to her. Kind of looks down a little bit when she's talking. She's already being groomed. And I'm not saying anything against the parents. I'm not saying anything like that at all. This is what happens. We are all trained to uphold patriarchal roles. It is very difficult to get out from under them when it's the only thing that you have ever known. And this is exactly why we need to change the conversation. So I hope you are with me. I thank you for being here. Please check out Hopefulist.com. A bevy of information there. If you are not following me on social media, you can find me almost anywhere by searching for The Hopefulist. I'm on Instagram at @the_Hopefulist. Also on TikTok. And you can find me on Facebook and Threads as well. So I want you to have a great week. And mostly what I want you to do is to break free, to discover you've always been enough. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. Together, we are better. Please visit my website at Hopefulist.com and remember to hit that subscribe or follow button.